the International Digital Dental Academy podcast. Welcome to the future of dentistry.
Hi everybody.
Hi.
Dan.
Hi
Good
Adam.
to see you.
Nice to see you. So you want to interview me. What are you going to interview me
I'm
about?
going to interview Dan again.
Yeah.
So we've done interviews before.
We
Dan.
have.
So Dan is from Active Aligners. He's also a digital dental guru. Has taught lots of different courses on digital dentistry. But we're not going to talk about that today.
No,
we
we're not
might
gonna
talk a
talk
little
dentistry.
bit about it. But let's talk about you, Dan. So tell me, who is Dan? Who is Dan Shaffer?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's really interesting that my identity changed during COVID quite a lot, as I know yours did as well, which is when we really started talking and getting closer.
You mean the new me?
I mean,
the new hairy
you,
me.
the beard, the hairstyle, but especially with what defined you before COVID. I felt, certainly with myself, and I don't know if you felt this, that I was defined by doctor before my name, the job that I did, the drill that I held in my hand, and the letters after my name. And during COVID, that all changed, of course, because everything shut down. You kind of lost that, and so what did you become? Well, I became Dan in authenticity.
Dan Action Man.
Well, maybe. I mean, Dan more into production, more into design, and I found that the science that I thought had defined me really evaporated, and the artistic side came out, and that's where I found interest in digital design, film production, and all the other things that we talked about before.
But you've done some weird things over the years, and weird in a good way,
know.
right? Some things which, honestly, you blow my mind every time I chat to you. So, I mean, to give you a history, so Dan, you've been educating digital dentistry, you've run practices. Listen, Dan has been running art galleries.
Yeah.
You did
I've been an art gallery owner.
You did an art gallery that was based on dental art galleries.
That's right, yeah.
And you've recently started an Afro hair with academy with somebody who's a friend and gone into that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So
amazing.
I mean, his background is in sustainability, actually. He's not a barber himself, but he owns a few hairdressing salons that are based on no gender, no texture, discrimination. So it's an all-inclusive. And what we found is that there's a lot of discrimination in the hair industry, and a lot of kids with curly hair, especially African kids or Jamaican kids, all from mixed families, mixed heritage
Listen,
backgrounds.
man, I've seen your kids at times with different hair.
Yeah, well, my kids' hair is a different matter. There's a lot of hair
They've gone
discrimination.
up and down in length, right?
Well, my son gets called a girl quite regularly because he has long hair, and that's very basic hair discrimination.
But he's got awesome hair.
But
Listen,
it is good.
I'm
He's
heading
like a
that
rock
way,
god.
so yeah, exactly.
How long are you going to grow yours?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. This is an Exoplan shirt from X Insights. If you can't see this, if you end up listening to this, if we do this as a podcast, then it's an Exocad Exoplan t-shirt that is for the conference that we just went to at Insights. But it's kind of like a rock t-shirt, which is cool, right?
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe we'll do something similar in the future. It sounds good.
It would be good. So tell me, Adam, I mean, you say I've got a bit of a mixed history and a weird past and get into all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, your background in engineering and laboratory kind of mixes with dentistry and throws up some really weird
I don't think
ways
either
as
of us
well,
are really dentists anymore.
We're not very conventional, are we? But we do talk about very odd things over the years as well. And we do have a passion for 3D printing, especially.
That is true. Yeah.
I think out of everything.
Do you know what? I think not really talked about this publicly, but when we were in COVID, we were doing all those COVID masks and stuff like that. Do you look back with fond memories to those times?
I do. Yeah,
Even now?
Do you know what? Before COVID came along, I was heading for a heart attack. I was on the treadmill, I was running the rat race, I was running a dental surgery, being a dentist, and it's absolutely
change your mind with stuff.
Terribly exhausting and stressful running a practice and being a dentist, and I lecture as you know, for dental protection on resilience and burnout, and I encounter this.
Happens to the best of us.
Absolutely, it happens to all of us.
It does,
and I've talked about all these issues with different dentists, and I was on that treadmill too, and when COVID came along, that gave me a break that I needed, and it was a real relief, even though COVID was absolutely awful in lots of ways. Personally and resilience-wise, it gave me a chance to actually change my brain, change gear, and I far prefer what I'm doing now.
Maybe I shouldn't look back. I think, do you know what it is? I think it's because those months that we were, for those listeners who don't know, we did like a big project at the time.
We did, yeah.
There was tens of thousands of parts that we made with a couple of hundred labs in the end across the UK and Europe. And they made a lot of parts, all 100% for charity. And you know what? I think what it was, I don't look back being regretting that we did it because it did the right thing. But I think when you look back and see people who took advantage of it, both in the dental community and also in the government with stuff, with, where friends of friends getting contracts and hearing about, like, we knew how much things cost to produce a mask, how much to produce a visor. We had a guy who had the carbon printers over in Sweden.
Yes.
So we knew those only cost a couple of quid, right? So when the government were handing out contracts for those and stuff, and whatever they were handing out, maybe it wasn't that price, and I don't want to get caught up in that sort of thing. But
it was a shame.
It changes your mind to think maybe when everybody else had basically 3 months of family time and stuff, was it the right move? Was it real? I don't know anymore. I don't know.
We were busting our behinds though. I mean, do you remember we were phoning up? We had an interview with a Syrian refugee camp.
Yeah.
We were speaking to on the phone to see about what their challenges were during COVID.
Yeah.
We were test printing ventilator parts. We were getting
hospitals.
them out to hospitals. We had networks involved.
I was going to bloody cancer wards every Monday and stuff. What a crazy time.
We did fantastic stuff, and I loved every minute of it.
And then gone from that to hair salons and art galleries. Listen,
absolutely.
I really want to do more with the art gallery side. So
do you want to do one?
Talk about it. What got you into art gallery?
So art gallery was actually a chance occurrence that I ended up with a business premises as a pop-up for 6 months where I could run an art gallery. So I set up a woodworking workshop, I got a laser engraver, got 3D printers and an art gallery space. Got 2 artists involved and set up a gallery. Unfortunately, art galleries require footfall, and a week after we opened, COVID hit big time and lockdown, and then that was it. So we kept it going for a little while, but it shut down.
Oh man,
we had the website going,
I'd love to have an art gallery. I'd love to do stuff for an art gallery. I used to do a little bit of art at times. I don't have the time anymore, and I'd love to.
I want to 3D print massive dental things. I think that would be a great.
Do you know what? I'm going to get onto a different subject, but related. Have you seen some of the AI art?
Yes, I have.
Have you?
I have.
From like Mid-Journey and things like that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some crazy stuff from that.
Maybe we've got another project to work on.
I think we might do. But do you know what? Some of that stuff, I think that is the future of CAD, smile design, mock-ups of patients.
It's incorporating imperfection as nature's perfection. Yeah.
Some of those things, when you see them, when they load up, you can just tell that program. For those of you who don't know, so there's a couple of different AIs now. One of them is called Mid-Journey. There's Dolly, a couple of others, and basically it runs on sort of like a text-based prompt system. So you tell the AI what you want it to draw, and it creates like art, and it is art. And it's not. My wife was probably, the first one she was like, well, is this real?
Art? Yeah.
Is it art? Is it just copy and pasted bits from Google? But it's apparently all new. So it creates things from scratch. It doesn't take images that already exist and put it together. It creates a new image. And some of them, you can tell them now, it's getting better where you tell them celebrities, put them into the place of like a pirate or a spaceman or whatever, and some of it's amazing. So I don't know, I think there's a weird future.
There's actually a music as well. I went to visit an exhibit recently that is a load of prayer bowls that's going to run for 1,000 years. It's called the 1,000-Year Tune, I think it is. And you can go and see the thing and hear it in an old lighthouse. It's actually down the road from here. I'll show you where it is.
Yeah, I will do, yeah.
And it's computer-generated music.
But you know what? I was listening to a guy. I was listening to a podcast and he was talking about how he was a scientist with grey hair. I can't remember his name. But he, anyway, he's a physicist. And he's one of the string field theory guys.
Okay.
Kako or something like that. But anyway, he was saying about how to him the universe is music, and that when he was a kid, he saw a newspaper and it was just an open, empty book, and it was a funeral, and they were like, "This is the book of what was never written by this person." And he was, "Mum, who's this?" And he was like, "This was Einstein." And he said, "I want to know what was in that book." So he's then spent his life looking into things, and the more he's gone down that rabbit hole, he's found that, you know, science, physics, life, everything has patterns, everything has flow. And yeah, I think, you know, the more we're seeing with this AI thing, these patterns, this sort of flow that it has, it creates something new, and maybe that's what, you know, we do as humans, intuitive when we're creative. We're becoming in sync with the universe. I don't know.
I mean, bringing it back to dentistry, there's always been
sound like
the
a right
challenge.
hippie saying that, but listen,
No,
I'm a physicist
peace
as well.
and love, man.
Yeah, exactly.
With dentistry, I mean, you know, you're trying to mimic nature, and of course, nature is imperfect. And then how do you scientifically teach how to mimic nature?
How do you
with
achieve
perfection?
beauty? Yeah.
And then, and this has been mine and yours and all the other dentists' challenges, especially when we're doing this high-level cosmetic work.
Exactly. And do you know what? That's actually a good way to link back to dentistry, in that when we're looking at these things, when we're doing things like the Smile Creator app and that, when we're creating a smile, there is a bit of that. Some of the best technicians that we see, it isn't perfection.
No, it's
perfection.
artistry.
It's artistry. And what we see as a beautiful smile is often imperfect in different ways. And yeah, those little imperfections won't make it real. But I tell you what, those AI pictures, they're bringing that in.
Let me ask you a question. This is a very interesting question for you, Adam.
Okay.
So you do your dentistry, you do all these great cases and teeth and all the rest of it. Do you like your results?
Do you know what? I think I'm definitely better now than I was 7 years ago. Do you know what? When I was, for those who don't know me, so I did my master's degree about 2012. And when I was doing it was a master in restorative and aesthetics. So the aesthetic dentistry awards weren't that far after that, maybe 2013, 14. So I was putting in a few cases for that I thought, I've got these smoking, right? They were beautiful. I look back now, and I'm looking at those going, okay, I need to reevaluate that. And then the problem is, then you've got to get over your ego, because then you're thinking, well, were there skilled dentists at the time looking at that and having a laugh? Were there skilled dentists now looking back and having a laugh? Do the things you do now mean that there are people who judge it? And yeah, of course there will be. But you know what? I think anybody who's got to somewhere where they look at, you know, they provide beautiful cases, they'll tell you themselves that they weren't always that good, right?
Absolutely.
And everybody's on a journey. So I don't know. I think I kind of probably learned to be a little bit more gentle on myself, because
you have to, don't you?
You have to.
This is part of a dentist's personality that I've come across during resilience training, etc.
Yeah.
I can't remember maybe one or two cases during 20 years worth of practice that I've actually liked of my own.
Yeah.
I haven't been critical over it.
Confident. There's always something, yeah?
I can just do that slight degree to the left, or a tiny bit like that, or whatever else it is.
I have two judges in my life, right? When I'm doing a bigger case. So my first one's my wife, obviously.
Yeah.
I'll show her this case, and she goes, oh yeah, that's pretty. And I go, do you think this should have been better? Or that's a bit. And I'll be critical. And she'll go, no, it looks beautiful. But then I've got to get second judgment. So I'll send to Quintus. Now I hold Quintus very high regard, because he has beautiful results, yeah? So, I'll send to Quintus and I go, what do you think of this, Cube? Yeah. And he'll be honest, he'll go, well, you should have done this could have been a bit better there, and then I'll improve. Yeah. But that's how you improve, and I think that's probably, again, that yin-yang balance. You probably need the guy or the girl who's gonna, give you that support, and you also need someone to be honest with you and say, this is what needs doing better. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we like teaching.
My associate, who's a lot less experienced than me, and I'm teaching her a bit about digital along the way. She's a very good dentist. And I told her this. I said, listen, I've never really liked anything that I've ever done. She said, but it's beautiful. Yeah. You're amazing. These crowns, these bridges, everything else, this porcelain work is amazing. How can you say that? I said, well, it's just part of a dentist's personality, and I think it's naturally part of being a dentist to be self-critical.
There is the alternative.
I don't beat myself up about it.
People who really, really love the work, but sometimes I don't know if that's part of like this social media sort of Insta follower thing that you kind of have to show a jazz hands face. It's like Quintus always says, like, I'm very outspoken, but believe it or not, when I was a kid, I was very shy, introverted, very shy.
I used to hide behind my mum when I was a child.
Listen, I've got 2 kids, right? I've got my lad Max, and he is very like me in a lot of ways with a lot of science and being a geek and all this. Loves his Lego, loves studying he's 10 years old, and he was talking to one of his teachers and getting worried about talking about black holes, right? So that's me in there, right? But he goes out and he'll just go and talk to someone randomly in the park and make friends. I was not that kid. You know, my daughter, she's very confident in a lot of ways, but then she'd be very shy in talking to people.
But look at us, 2 kids that were really, really shy, and now we're on stage in front of hundreds of people without even blinking.
Yeah, it's a learning curve as well, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
Let's go back onto dentistry.
Go on, Nick.
So, lastly, let's talk about active aligners. Tell us about active aligners. How do you get into that?
Active aligners, I got approached to look at a direct-to-consumer aligner project.
Okay.
And I said to my colleague, Dr. Wayne Hirschman, a very close friend of mine, who for many years...
Nice guy, Wayne.
Lovely guy, very good dentist.
Another South African person I'm friends with seems to be surrounded by South Africans.
I don't know what it is about them.
Yeah.
Maybe they like us Brits, I don't know.
But I don't even sound English anymore because of these ones. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. So I said to him, listen, Wayne, great, it sounds great, but we can't do direct to consumer. And he agreed as well. And so we came up with a way to look. I'm a technician and a dentist, and I've been making aligners and 3D printing in my own lab. And I said, listen, let's look at it from a dentist's point of view, from a technician's point of view, from a patient's point of view, from a clinic's point of view, from a team's point of view, and try and improve on every single other aligner system that's out there.
It's a beautiful box kit. I mean,
looks great.
Looks great.
Feels great to the patients. They're very good quality aligners. They're a straight line finish. We found that that's research based. It gives you better forces on the teeth.
Yeah.
The digital backup is fantastic. We've got marketing materials to help practices get the message out there. We've also teamed up with organisations like the International Digital Dental Academy to offer existing students a discount. So we've got a good discount structure, but our prices are more economical than many of the competitors already.
Yeah.
And then the customer service and integrity are really the central points that we hold very, very true and dear to the company.
Yeah.
And so in the end, we've worked out...
Support, right?
Exactly, it's all about support, as you know, from the various businesses you're involved with as well. And that is so important. So we've ended up with an aligner system, an aligner company for dentists by dentists that does exactly what it says on the tin. You get what you expect, and you get all the bells and whistles that goes with it, including the UK-based customer support.
Lastly, anything interesting coming for the future?
You'll
Other
just
than
have
Afro hair design, right?
You'll have to. I mean, the Afro Hair Academy was a curveball, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a curveball.
There are a couple more things actually coming up,
forward to it, buddy.
which are being invented at the moment.
Wow, nice.
But I'd love to work with you on one of them actually, which I'll let you know in about 6 months' time.
AI maybe, right?
Something to do with it.
That's cool. Right,
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Hope you enjoyed listening to it. That was another interview with Dan Shaffer.
Thank you,
We'll
Adam.
try again soon, I'm sure.
We will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Nice, man.
I think we've got a good rapport actually. Maybe we could do something.
How do we stop this?
The International Digital Dental Academy podcast. Welcome to the future of dentistry.